Welcome to the Focus Fundraiser, where we discuss how to focus on the right fundraising practices. Because doing more does not move the needle, doing what matters most and prioritizing does. The goal at this time is to hear from successful fundraisers who are in the trenches and who are willing to share those hard-earned practices that they've learned on a daily basis and that they use on a daily basis. Today, I am joined by Kristen Mitchell. Kristen is the co-founder and executive director of Youth Futures. Kristen, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I know you've got a lot of background in building a nonprofit and fundraising. So let's start with your background. Tell me a little bit about how you got into fundraising, what led you to stay, and yeah, let's start there.
Well, I'll just say when I looked at the title of your podcast, I'm like, ooh, I'm not sure that's me because I really feel like I'm an accidental fundraiser. I'm a founder, an executive director. I think it kind of took me by surprise how much actual fundraising the executive director has to do.
Mm.
Get me wrong, I knew I was going to have to do fundraising, but I didn't really realize that I was the face of the organization and that I was going to be called on to do that, speaking in public, and I do a lot of fundraising.
Tell me a little bit about that. So you kind of backed into fundraising then in your role. What's it been like? Have you enjoyed being the face of the organization? Have you accepted it? Are you still figuring it out?
Um, I've definitely accepted it. Um, I'm sort of an introvert, and so, well, more than sort of. So being out there in the face of the organization, I think it caught me off guard. I probably would have been helped by having some public speaking classes or, having been in those roles in the past. I see other executive directors who are just like, they're so excited to be in front of the camera and up there talking to everyone and meeting with everyone. And it was a stretch for me.
Hmm. What has So let's dive into that a little bit because I think it's important to call out that there are those that are very charismatic and they exude charisma and they talk on stage really well. But as donors, have you found that authenticity can trump that, where you can be authentically yourself?
Yeah. I kind of don't have much choice. I just am, I try to be authentic. I am genuine and upfront with everything that we do. And so I find that that sort of draws people in. It keeps people connected to the reality of what we do, the reality of me being in front of them, asking for support and partnership. So,
Yeah. So you built Youth Futures from the ground up, and you guys are now a multi-site organization. Is that correct?
we are. I I sometimes say we built Youth Futures from the change in our couch. That's no joke. The the nonprofit started with change jars sitting in different places. So we literally started from nothing and built it. And yeah, now we have 4 sites, um, 3 shelters across the state and 1 transitional living program. So we've grown.
What has it been like, or what are some lessons learned in growing quickly in the fundraising space specifically? What have you really honed in on?
I think I've learned my lesson quite a few times about capital campaigning and fundraising large chunks prior to opening the project. I've done it sort of both ways where we had a large campaign for our St. George property, our St. George project, the second one we opened, and then we didn't really capital campaign for the next one. Um, I would recommend getting a big chunk behind you before you actually open and start.
Hmm. And I think this next question leads into that a little bit. In the fundraising space, you've been in for many years now. What is one thing that you feel like has stayed the same in fundraising and one thing that you've seen change?
Man, in the last 10 years, there have been a lot of changes. Mm, I think the things that have stayed the same is connecting to the people. People want to hear stories. They want to talk directly to me. They want to hear about the kids that we're serving specifically. The thing that has changed specifically for us is, as an organization starts, it's the new and shiny. It's all exciting. Everybody's seeing it. It's a new thing. It's innovative. And then you grow and you expand. And while for us, it's all still new and shiny, for them, they've been seeing it for 10 years now. So still bringing my enthusiasm and my excitement to the mission and what we do to other people to get them engaged. Sometimes it's discouraging, it's challenging, but you got to remember that every day. Bring that enthusiasm because they want to see that you're still excited about your mission.
Yeah, can that be difficult when you're feeling overwhelmed or discouraged? Does it feel inauthentic?
On the surface, yes. I know it in my soul. So just connecting back to that, remembering that, regrouping right before you go into something big because yeah, I'm excited. It is a little discouraging some days, there's more than some days. There's times when it's like, how are we going to make this happen?
Hmm.
So,
Is it, are you talking about on the fun side of things or on the emotional stress of what you actually are doing in the programs?
well, that's those kind of are connected. I these days spend much less time on the ground with the kids. Um, so I have to pull myself back into the stories, have the staff tell me things about what's going on. Um, but I think the discouragement comes from the fundraising struggle. You know, the
Yeah.
mission is great every day, every time. The mission is always awesome. The kids are, we're helping so many kids. And so,
What practices have you put into place from a burnout perspective of when things get tough, when fundraising isn't going exactly how you want it to go? What do you do?
well, it's not a very popular opinion, but I think burnout is kind of a buzzword.
Hmm.
And I think our minds hear that and they listen. Our minds listen a lot better than we might think. If you tell yourself you're burned out, your mind's going to believe it. So if you can separate yourself from that buzzword and just, I'm tired, I'm going to take a break, I'm going to take a rest, I'm going to regroup tomorrow, I'm going to do some mind valley and meditation, you know, bring my spirits back up because if you get bogged down in that, you can't stay there.
So there's a lot of mental exercises that you do.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome.
Especially before
So
something big.
yeah, I was gonna say. So with those big events, then that's a big piece for you. Is if you're feeling overwhelmed or maybe discouraged a bit, you're not allowing yourself to feel burnout, but you're mentally coaching yourself.
Yep. Yeah, I just don't want to buy into the I can't or it's too hard or I'm too tired or I'm burned out. We'll just keep going.
Yeah. How does that play into the leadership piece that you hold as well with your team? How do you encourage them as well?
Um, the same way, you know, I encourage people to take their time, the time that they need. We do a lot of wellness. We have a really good wellness program in our organization. We offer reimbursements for personal development, professional development, healthy food, Audible. We give them a whole toolkit of things that they can pull from to help them build themselves up and keep coming back and connecting back to the kids.
Hmm. That's good. I love that. So something that you've talked about on LinkedIn before is that you believe nonprofits deserve to run like a regular business. This
Yeah.
concept might be foreign to some. So would you? Why do you believe that, and what does it mean to run it like a regular business?
Well, I've run both. So I ran for profit businesses for most of my life and the last 15 or so in nonprofits. And I think we're doing ourselves a disservice as nonprofits when we don't set up our administration ahead of time. If anybody's founded a nonprofit, you start from me and then you add a few other people as you can, and you get to a point where you feel like you don't have enough people to run the business aspect of the organization. And then you fall behind in those pieces, like, for instance, in fundraising, getting a real solid development director, development department. The department isn't built out, but the organizational budget needs to be having a department that's built out to support that. And you have all kinds of things, quality assurance, and I finally got administrative assistant, which saved my life. Um, and I believe it's too slow to start that structure of the organization before you start serving people. But that's just not organically how it works with nonprofits. You just don't get that luxury.
Mm. So you're talking what I'm familiar with systems and getting systems in place so that you can backfill. If you're figuring out how to do something in the business or the nonprofit, you would then build out how does that work, and so then you can backfill. You can budget for it and backfill with a hire.
Yeah, yeah. I'm certainly, as the founder and the executive director, I'm really bogged down in the administrative stuff. But because I'm a fundraiser, also, I have to prioritize my fundraising, or then I don't have that to prop up my organization.
Mm. Yeah, let's talk about prioritizing fundraising because it's such an important piece, but so often it can be pushed aside when other fires get uh,
Yes.
happen during the week. So tell me about that. How do you prioritize that?
It it has been, for the majority of the time I've been running this organization, sort of an afterthought, especially for me. Oh, I'll do it when I get time. I do tend to organically do it as I go throughout the day. I really have always tried to take some time to think about, who do I need to connect with today? Whether it's a big donor or a small donor, reaching out to someone. In the last year or so, I've really started to prioritize and set time on my calendar. If you don't set that time to do the reach out, to do the connection email or the call, it really won't get done because there's so many other fires that have to be put out.
Mhm. Let's get tactical. Do you have a tool that you use? Is it literally just your calendar, or do you have Asana, or do you have any tools that you would recommend?
I use my calendar, my CRM. LinkedIn has come into play really big over the last 6 8 months. It's an amazing tool, actually. I just got Sales Navigator, so I'm interested to see how that's going to all play into keeping me organized with my donor outreach.
Hmm. Those are
So
good. I love that. Yeah, CRM is a huge one, right? Because that's where all of the donor records live, and you can
yeah,
actually take
yeah,
action on that.
yeah.
All right. So, last question for you, Kristen. Fundraisers who are feeling overwhelmed. I'm sure you've been there before. What advice do you give to those that are feeling overwhelmed and they're not sure if they want to keep going? You know, this is a very high turnover role
It is.
in nonprofits. So, what would you say to them?
We've talked about it a little bit already, but stay connected to the clients, the kids, whoever you're serving, and get those stories. Tell those stories, write the stories. That's what keeps you connected to what you're doing, why you're doing it. Remember that the reason we're doing what we're doing is because of the people. Not only the kids we're serving, but the donors that we're given the opportunity to serve the kids. They're all people and everybody wants to be recognized and talked to, and it's that personal piece, the kids and the donors.
That's good. Don't get disconnected from the mission and the reason that you're fundraising in the first place. That's good. Kristen, thank you so much for sharing your advice with fellow fundraisers.
You are welcome.
For those listening, I hope that this conversation has encouraged you to lean into focusing and prioritizing and simplifying. If you are curious about how DonorDock can help you clarify and build strong donor base, visit us at DonorDock.com. And we will see you next week.
Thank you.